I've been seeing this book being mentioned by a lot of big entrepreneurs who say when they were starting out on their journey, this book was really instrumental in making a mindset shift. If you don't pursue those things that excite you, where will you be 1 year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? That's the question of lifestyle design.
It's time to reinvent.
Welcome back to the Lessons of Entrepreneurship, the Journey of Reinvention podcast. Today, I'm bringing back one of our favorites, a series that we do on our podcast called the Leaders Are Readers series. Today, we're covering the book, The 4-Hour Workweek, Escape the 9-to-5, Live Anywhere, and Join the New Rich by Tim Ferriss. My initial impression, the concept of the 4-hour work week, or the title of the book, I wasn't open-minded. That's what I can say. I made some assumptions just because I felt like the idea didn't quite align with my own life philosophy. Anyway, I'm here to say that I've been pleasantly surprised in reading the 4-hour work week by Tim Ferriss. I've been seeing this book being mentioned by a lot of big entrepreneurs who say when they were starting out on their journey, this book was really instrumental in making a mindset shift that they felt was necessary in order to pursue entrepreneurship. I'm sure if you search on YouTube, there are plenty of videos. Ali Abdaal, so many creators have profiled this book. I'm going to try to give you a different perspective. Firstly, if you're like me and the concept of the 4-hour work week, you're like, oh, okay, it doesn't sound like your cup of tea. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised if you continue listening to this episode, because I'm going to share with you 10 things that I think that this book does really well. It's not really a book to read. It's more like a manual because he provides a lot of resources, links to the things that he's talking about in the book. So if you vibe with these 10 points, you should probably purchase the book because there's lots of information. He goes into detail. So thank you so much, Tim Ferriss, for that. Anyway, first of all, point number 1, this book is not about a 4-hour work week. It's about designing your life. It's a lifestyle design book. And I think at this point in time, similarly to the time in which it was written, but I think even more so now, the concept of lifestyle design is really something that I think everybody should be thinking about, entrepreneur or not. Post the pandemic, I think we all had an unwelcome shift in the way that we do things. We were forced to redesign our lives, whether it was working virtually or meeting with clients virtually or attending conferences virtually. We were able to make changes to continue to get sometimes even more effectiveness and more efficiency by doing things that prior to the pandemic we might not have thought were the best way of doing things or the most beneficial way of doing things. Point number 2, he talks about how the global economic downturn is an opportunity for small businesses, for solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. Why? Because he said, at a time when economies are low, where we are today, at a time when economies are going through a lot, what you have is discounted infrastructures, outstanding freelancers globally at bargain prices, and advertising which is accessible and becoming affordable. And all these things, he says, are not possible when the economy and the markets are optimistic. So really, right now is a time when there's a lot of fear, especially for small business owners and entrepreneurs, and it's harder to get people to buy things, frankly. But also in this lies great opportunity for people to design a lifestyle that goes with what they're hoping to accomplish. He says, and I quote, "This period of collective panic is your time to dabble. It's time to experiment, try different things, access high quality resources at affordable prices, and be able to negotiate." I think it's a great time for really resourcefulness. Things like barter trading with entrepreneurs for services. Things like looking globally for people who are excellent and working with them virtually to improve your business. This is a time where really, I believe for many businesses, an opportunity for people to really reinvent themselves and come out the other side having strong business structures and great profitable offers and having built brands using social media that help them to get greater reach and to have more impact. Point number 3, this book talks about live by design, not by compliance. There's a quote that he shares that whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect. That's a quote by Mark Twain. And essentially what he's saying, and I think he's speaking to the people like me who saw the title, The 4-Hour Workweek, and thought, how practical is that? He's really talking about being bold enough to design a lifestyle, to design a business, and to take actions that allow you to live the life you desire. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, whether you're a young person who's out of school and you want to see the world, you want to expose yourself to more of what's out there, designing your life as an entrepreneur in a way that you can do those things. For those who are parents, having a life where you can spend more time with your children and you can go to their activities and you can have time to be with them and just enjoy them growing up. Designing your life in such a way that you can do those things that are important to you is really what this book is about. And I think lately on the podcast, we've been able to have some really fantastic people come on the show who've really opened up my mind. And I think if you've been listening all along, that there's so many ways to approach business. There's franchise models, there's building an agency with global talent. We've talked about boutique businesses. We've talked about being a high-value consultant. We've talked about a lot of different approaches to entrepreneurship, depending on what it is that you hope to accomplish and depending on the life that you're trying to design for yourself and what's really important to you. Point number 5, the concept of what he calls the new rich is it's not about money. It's about rich lifestyle. And then you can say, well, how do you live a rich lifestyle without money? But anyway, we'll get into that. He says that the new rich are people who have decided that they are not what they do for work. They've separated what they do for work and who they are and how they spend their time, more importantly, as things that are completely different. And then the idea of how do you live a rich lifestyle without any money? He says, consider how much money does it take for you to actually do the things that you consider to be a rich lifestyle. And I think this is one of those things where traditionally for a long time, there were certain things we associated with being rich. We associated people who play golf with people of a certain, I don't want to say class, but people of certain means. We associated people who listen to certain music or attend certain things as being something that was exclusive to people of great wealth. And he says, well, question those assumptions in today's world. How much money does it cost for you to be able to do those things, right? Those things that you enjoy doing, that you figured are reserved for rich people. He even goes as far as saying, think about even retirement. People think, when I retire, then I'll spend my time on the beach, or finally when I retire, I'll be able to travel. And he says, question all those assumptions. What stops you from traveling today? What really stops you from traveling today? Because if you wanted to go and visit a certain country, and you weren't trying to fly first class, and you weren't trying to stay in the Ritz-Carlton or whatever 5-star hotel you can think of, if what you really wanted was to go and visit a certain country and experience certain things there, and that is part of what you would consider making your life rich, you could figure out a way to do it on a minimal budget in today's world. Whether it's cheaper flights, cheaper accommodation, shared accommodation, there's so many options. And this is what he's talking about when he's talking about today's world is about the new rich. And the new rich is not necessarily about money. It's about people who have designed their lives in a way to live a rich lifestyle. Albeit, of course, there are certain places in the world where those things are hard to come by. But even then, he says, continue to question assumptions. If you love to play golf and you can figure out a way to play golf, you don't have to have a lot of money, but there is a way if you can design your life to live a rich lifestyle. Point 5, he says the goal is fun for profit. Enjoy what you're doing and make sure that what you're doing is profitable at the same time. He's not advocating for people to just be careless and just having fun. No thought of how am I going to earn? How am I going to live? That's not what he's talking about. He refers to the idea of boredom being something that people experience as the norm in adulting. Being an adult just means you have to be bored with life and just going through the rat race, the hamster wheel, whatever you'd like to call it. And he's questioning that, and he's saying, how about we make the goal us having fun and also us being profitable? And he has a concept, and the concept is DEAL, DEAL. He says the first thing is definition. Define what it is that you want. The next E is elimination. What does it need to be there? What can you live without? What should you not do? The A is automation. What doesn't need you in the mix to get done? And L, he says, is liberation. The whole point of everything that he's talking about in this book is the idea of being able to be free to make the choices that you want for your life. Freedom. There's a quote in the book about money, and he says, money is multiplied in practical value. In practical value, not in numerical value, in practical value, depending on the number of W's you control in your life. The first W says what you do. The second W, when you do it. The third W, where you do it. And the last one is with whom you do it. And he says that the point of money is to be a freedom multiplier, to allow you to be able to make those choices. And this made me think, because as an immigrant who's lived in many countries all over the world, and if you're an immigrant, if you know, you know, right? This idea of seeking freedom and seeking ways to multiply our freedoms. Point number 6, he says you can make money. Remember, fun and profit. He says you can make money, a lot more money, by doing half of what you're doing right now. He says less is more. I suppose if you think about it this way, if you only do what you're great at, then you can do less to be able to earn more money. And in this case, he says less is more. Back to that concept of the 4-hour work week. He says less is not laziness, but less is more. He says, once again, test every assumption. And there's always been this elephant in the room where popular culture loves a sacrifice. It loves for you to be working. And we get so much adrenaline from that, and we get identity from that, and we feel good because we're busy all the time and we never get any rest. He's like, no, question every assumption, test every assumption. And then it reminded me of the Netflix founder. I can't remember the exact details, but him saying that he had a specific day of the week where after 6 p.m. he did not do any work. Something that he said he let be known company-wide, that at 6 p.m. it was time for him and his wife to have a date night, and that time was not compromised. And I think he did that for 20 years. And it's a testament, especially for new entrepreneurs and small business owners, where we're thinking we have to be working all the time and we can't do this with our family and we can't do that with our friends. And really, it boils down to what is important, that designing your lifestyle or living your life by design. Even if we look at society today, we've tested the assumptions about needing to be at a workplace working for 8 hours in order to produce a certain outcome. I've realized that being at home and working virtually for less hours can still be more productive. Even if you think about the area of homeschooling, homeschoolers are realizing that you only need about 2 to 3 hours of focused learning for a child for the day. They don't need to be in a school mode or learning environment for 7 or 8 hours. So it's interesting that all these kind of assumptions that we've had or models that we've had of what is the correct way to do things challenge those conventional wisdoms. As entrepreneurs, challenge the fact that you need a lengthy sales process. Challenge the idea of having to book calls in order to get clients. Challenge the idea that social media does not lead to sales. For a long time, people thought social media, and some people still say it up to now, social media does not equal sales. But if you look around, there are a whole lot of people without booking calls through social media who are making a whole lot of sales. So even as you structure your business and the processes in your business, things that take you a lot of time, challenges there another way so that you can have a lifestyle that, I was going to say a balance, but no, Tim is not talking about a lifestyle of balance. He's talking about a lifestyle that makes you feel that you're living a rich lifestyle daily. Can you accomplish this goal, whatever the goal is, by doing less? Point number 7 ties in with point number 6. He says productivity over being busy. Say no to work for work's sake. The things that you're doing just to say you're working, say no to those things. He's not saying don't have any form of stress in your life. He says no, the opposite. He's saying stress is good for you if it's healthy stress. If the stress you're experiencing is you pushing beyond your boundaries and getting out of your comfort zone, then that's good stress. You need that kind of stress in your life. It's interesting that as you read the book, all the assumptions that I had from the 4-Hour Workweek, he addresses those one after another. Well, the book is hugely popular. I just wonder if people who would have had those assumptions would have gotten to the point where they actually read the book and got to hear him countering those assumptions as you read the book. But all the same. Point number 8, he says, don't only evaluate the potential downside of an action or of actions. Measure the atrocious costs of inaction. If you don't pursue those things that excite you, where will you be 1 year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? That's the question of lifestyle design. Thank you, Tim Ferriss, for that question. I think that's a really good question when you begin to reflect whatever you feel about the concept of the 4-hour work week or whether it's achievable or not. But the idea that you have to live a boring life in order to be a productive adult, or you have to be a person who's highly stressed and stretched thin in order for you to be a business person, an entrepreneur. It says question all those things by first saying what is important to you. Maybe those things are important to you, but all the same, be intentional about your life. The first question is always, what do you want? What do you want? If you feel your life is boring and uneventful and you're living for the weekends, change it. Design your life. Point number 9, to have an uncommon lifestyle, you need to develop the uncommon habit of making decisions, both for yourself and for others. Wow, the uncommon habit of making decisions. That really struck a chord there. As you're growing up, you're looking forward to finally being able to make decisions for yourself. And then as an adult, we avoid actually making decisions. We go with the flow. We follow traditional paths. We just do what we think we're supposed to do. We abdicate our power to make decisions. And he's saying, if you want to have an uncommon lifestyle, doing what other people are not doing, you're charting your own way, being a business leader, a visionary, you have to decide. You have to decide for yourself what you want. And you never know, you might be deciding for others. It's great because that's what Tim does with this book. He gives us a concept, an idea of how to do it. And he goes so far as to provide details as to how to accomplish this redesigned lifestyle. That's what leaders do. Really interesting book. The last point that I'll give you, I can't cover the whole book. Buy the book. It's not a book to read. It's a book really to find resources to accomplish what you're doing. He says you don't need more time. You can accomplish the things that you're doing in half the time. Parkinson's law dictates that a task will swell in perceived importance and complexity in relation to the time allocated for its completion. So basically, he's saying create deadlines for your work. Even if you're working alone, you started your business, create deadlines for your work. Do not allow yourself to have endless working days or to have days that merge into each other while you're working. Do not allow that to happen to you. He says a good litmus test, a little bit extreme, but I mean, it's food for thought. Listen, he says, if you had a heart attack and had 2 hours to work per day, 2 hours to work per day, that's all you had, what would you do? Thank you so much for listening to the Leaders Are Readers series and the book we covered today, The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. It's an interesting book, and I do understand why all the people that I saw mentioning this book talked about how it's a mindset shift. It's an unshackle yourself to the traditional way of doing things, unshackle yourself from your job, unshackle yourself from the idea of being a business owner that slaves away day and night. Unshackle yourself from all those traditional ideas. Decide what it is that you want. Make that decision. And then take that action to have the lifestyle that you live on intention. Design a life that is rich, daily rich, because you're doing the things that you set out to do. And as we look for ways to earn more and be more profitable, the idea is we're doing that in order to multiply our freedoms of what we do, when we do it, where we do it, and with whom we do it. So thank you, Tim Ferriss. I'll leave a link down below if you'd like to purchase the book. It was a good read, and I'd recommend it to someone who they feel bored with life or they feel bored with their business. Maybe it's time for a lifestyle design. Reinvent yourself and do so boldly. Make decisions and act on them. Thank you for listening. And as always, See you soon.